Battle Through the Heavens God, the Flame Emperor Chapter 81, 0-Year Appointment. Although Xiaoyan had long known from his master the Golden Dragon King that this emperor's blood essence, Su Shuiying, was inevitable, when Su Shuiying said this, she couldn't help but have a black line. Starting from defeating the 7 guardians, the 2 of them absorbed the troubles caused by the black and white yin and yang hearts respectively. After they got the terrifying skeleton in the stone room, imagine that this was the result of their joint efforts, but in the end, it was cheaper for Su Shuiying, and Xiao Yan also sank his eyes. Xiao Yan, who was originally aching, was also overjoyed when he heard that Su Shuiying took away the blood of the emperor but had to make an agreement with herself. Why are there no traces of the Xiao clan on the Dode continent? And what is Su Shuiying and the others guarding? The unsolved mysteries have always puzzled Xiao Yan, and now hearing Su Shuiying say this, he can't help but turn his head and stare at her. She must know something? What is the relationship between you and my family? Xiao Yan also asked passionately. If he knew the reason, it would be much easier to walk in Dode continent, and he wouldn't be like a headless fly. Sorry, I can't tell you this for now. Su Shuiying also refused directly. Sure enough, it still doesn't work. Xiao Yan muttered to himself, and then his fiery gaze also subsided. Then what is the agreement you're talking about? Xiao Yan also returned to normal and said to Su Shuiying, although my master said that if I meet someone who has that clan tattoo like on your forehead when I go out, I will bring it back to the family at all costs, and return them what we protect extremely important things to their hands. Su Shuiying said slightly. At that moment, the blood-red blood essence that was lying quietly on her jade hand was also collected into a jade bottle by her, and the blood-red blood essence seemed to be lying in the jade bottle very well behaved. After doing all this, Su Shuiying continued. However, the things we are guarding involve too much, and you can't fight against it at the moment. Su Shuiying also wrinkled her beautiful eyes slightly, although saying this does have some blows to Xiao Yan, but the fact is that he is still too weak, some things are still unknown. Damn it. Then, what do you mean? Xiao Yan also said angrily. What kind of medicine does Su Shuiying sell in the gourd? She used to have the strength to suppress Xiao Yan before, and now she has taken away the blood of the emperor alone. The mystery between her and his Xiao clan has not been explained clearly, and Xiao Yan is indeed a little angry. Su Shuiying also seemed to have noticed Xiao Yan's sudden change in face, and then spoke up. However, I believe that those who can be recognized as masters by the fire spirits are definitely not mediocre. It's 100 years, and 100 years from now, if you reach Dosian, you have the strength to protect that thing. You can burn this lotus leaf to call me, and I will take you back to my master, let you know everything you want to know, and let you take back what belongs to you. If you don't reach it, then it means that you don't have the ability to protect it. I will naturally carry that thing for you, and you will continue to be like a prodigal son. Su Shuiying said that the green lotus platform that her jade feet stepped on is a lotus, then flew straight towards Xiao Yan. Taking the lotus leaf, an icy feeling hit, and then it was carefully placed into the ring, as if he was carefully looking at what Su Shuiying said. The lifespan of a normal person is 100 years, excluding birth, old age, sickness, and death, and the lifespan of a strong Dode is also quite long. 100 years is only 1/5, and the appearance of a strong Dode will also last until it reaches 400. It will only age after a few years. Dode has a long lifespan of 500 years. It is said that the lifespan of breaking through Dosian will increase to 1,000 years. In 100 years, it would be enough for a normal person to break through 4 or 5 stars on the basis of the original Dode, but this is only for normal people. It is quite difficult to improve each level of a Dode powerhouse. It can take a few years in the short term and decades in the long run. Xiao Yan's current strength is the peak of the 3-star Dode, and he is still quite a distance away from that Dosian. As a result, the 100-year agreement is only 1/5 of the time for the strong Dode, but it will soon pass. Xiao Yan is only in his 30s now. Even after 100 years, he still looks like a young man, which is a good time for cultivation. Why don't you just promise her, little Xiao Yan? You should also know that the breakthrough from the peak of 3-star Dode to Dosian in 100 years is nothing but nonsense to others, but you are different. You are practicing flame mantra. You can make continuous progress with the help of the power of holy flame. This agreement is not too bad. The Golden Dragon King is a dragon family, and the Golden Dragon King has the purest blood power. For him, 100 years' time is just a nap time. Hearing what his master, the Golden Dragon King, said, Xiaoyan couldn't help but have black lines all over his head. Sure enough, the lifespan of the demon beasts and dragons is very long. How are you thinking? Su Shuiying looked at Xiaoyan, whose complexion was constantly changing. I promise you, 100 years agreement. Xiaoyan also looked at Su Shuiying with a smile. Some things must be protected with enough strength. This point does not need Su Shuiying and his master the Golden Dragon King to tell Xiaoyan that. Xiaoyan also knows what he has suffered on the Dode continent, that he doesn't want to happen again. Then it's settled. Su Shuiying is also happy to see this state. Otherwise, if Xiaoyan insists on arguing for the blood of the emperor, then a war will inevitably be fought. Although she is not afraid of Xiaoyan, it is always the case. The people of the Xiao clan, even if they are a little weaker. Boom boom boom. The moment the two of them spoke, the stone room was swaying as if it was about to be collapsed. In this case, this little girl will take to leave first, and there will be a period later. Su Shuiying said. The green lotus on her feet also exuded bursts of cyan flames, wrapping Su Shuiying, and then she tore out a small space with her hands, a string of smoke. Entering it, she disappeared into the stone room. Goodbye, breaking through to Docian in 100 years, I think it's nonsense. I will naturally shoulder that thing for you, Su Shuiying muttered to herself when she entered the space crack. However, these words were listened to by the Golden Dragon King without a word, and then passed on to Xiaoyan as they were. Damn it! What about cheating labor and capital? Xiaoyan was also furious when he heard this. Ha ha ha, little Xiaoyan, don't worry, I said that you can achieve it. At that time, this arrogant woman will have to re-examine you. The Golden Dragon King also laughed loudly. Xiaoyan was slightly angry, and then he calmed down after he heard what his master said. A bright smile appeared on his originally ugly face, and he slowly opened his mouth, while staring at the place where Su Shuiying disappeared. Since you think I can't reach it, then I'll show it to you. 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Hexi, don't bully the poor. Not to mention 100. Chapter 82, Hope. Master, let's go too. Since the Emperor's blood has been taken away, the ruins are about to collapse. Xiaoyan also looked at the space that was about to collapse, and then waved his palm. The many precious medicinal materials in the stone chamber were received by the ring on his finger. Go. Little Xiaoyan, you actually left such a precious thing here? The Golden Dragon King also laughed and scolded. Could it be? Hearing this, Xiaoyan also looked around at the bare stone room, and then turned his gaze to the place where the frozen skeleton was. The originally frozen skeleton also slowly melted after Su Shuiying left. The blood of the emperor who provided the energy was taken away. The skeleton also lost its vitality and was bleak. The power of... That's right. This skeleton of a strong man who is as strong as the peak of the 7-star Dode. It will also be of great use in the future. If nothing else, just resurrecting and refining the body, this emperor's skeleton is a good thing that can't be found, plus with other tyrannical materials. If the refining is successful, the strength is also terrifying. The Golden Dragon King also looked at the jade white complete skeleton thoughtfully. Resurrection? Hearing the words of his master, the Golden Dragon King, Xiaoyan was also stunned for a moment, and then he remembered an important event in Dochi continent. Then a memory flashed back in Xiaoyan's mind. Now I am just a remnant soul, and even from a certain point of view, even the remnant soul is not a bit of a soul. If it wasn't for the strangeness of the heavenly tomb, I would have been dissipated between heaven and earth. Resurrection, I am afraid it should be impossible. Is there really no way? At least I don't know how to revive me. Maybe the legendary Dode can do it. Xiao Xian shook his head with a smile, looked at Xiaoyan in front of him. The smile on his face suddenly became softer, and said, you can achieve such an achievement without relying on the power of bloodline. To be honest, it is already makes me quite gratified. The people of my Xiao clan is always extraordinary. Xiaoyan still remembers the time when he met his ancestor Xiao Xian in the heavenly tomb, and with the help of the latter he regained the power of the Xiao family's bloodline, and then stepped into the soul of the emperor with the help of his ancestors. Thinking of these, I can't help but recall the scene when I was in the heavenly tomb. Master, when I was on the Dochi continent, I lost an ancestor. if I want to revive him. His own master, the Golden Dragon King, was also an absolutely trustworthy person, so Xiaoyan tell it all. The things of the ancient times are irrelevant, and no one understands why it is so difficult to cultivate to the level of Dodi. When ancestor Xiaoxian reached the peak of 9-star Doshang, he tried to break through to that illusory level, but in the end, however, in those repeated failures, this ancestor also made a discovery. Back then, the strength of his ancestor was enough to really break through to Dodi. However, every time the ancestors were about to break through the barrier, a feeling of emptiness would emerge from the depths of the soul. This feeling of emptiness led ancestor to understand that in the process of breaking through the Dodi level, there seemed to be missing something. This kind of thing is extremely critical. If I can get it, breaking through to the Dodi should not be hard. When the Golden Dragon King heard the words, the amount of information was a bit large, and then he frowned slightly, thinking about what Xiaoyan just said in his mind. This little Xiaoyan came from the same plane as the ancient Emperor Tuaxi. With the life and death relationship between the Golden Dragon King and Tuaxi, it is natural to know that the Doqi continent lacks the original source qi to reach the Dodi level. Lack of power does not exist for an upper plane like Dodi continent. Moreover, Doqi continent is a lower plane. All cultivation starts from the bottom Doqi, Dozhe, Doshi, Dodoshi, Doling, Dowang, Dohuang, Dozong, Dozun, Bansheng, Dosheng and Dode. Among so many ranks, Xiaoyan, your ancestor Xiaoxian, cultivated to the peak of Doqi continent, the peak of 9-star Dosheng, and found that he still lacked a vital source qi to reach Dode. From this kind, it is enough to see, given the extraordinariness of this person, even with the critical eyes of the Golden Dragon King, he could not help but respect Xiaoyan ancestor. Resurrection is not impossible. Refining the body is one of your skill being an alchemist. The Golden Dragon King also said slowly. Hearing this, Xiaoyan's eyes also became hot. This ancestor Xiaoxian had some kind of grace for Xiaoyan. The Skyfire 3 mysterious change. The terrifying power of flame emanated from Xiaoyan's body, and then Xiaoyan was urging the blood vessels in his body, and a mysterious clan tattoo slowly appeared on his forehead. The mysterious Xiao clan tattoo appeared, and then a small gray light spot also fell from Xiaoyan's forehead to his palm. Looking at this imprint of life, Xiaoyan also let out a sigh of relief, lowered his head, and glanced at the Golden Dragon King who was floating in front of him. This gray mark of life is impressively when Xiaoyan was in the sky. Looking at the place where Xiaoxian disappeared, he murmured softly, and immediately stretched out his palm, facing the empty space. Lightly. He held it lightly, and with the grip of his palm, an invisible gray light spot that ordinary people could not see appeared in his hand. This is Xiaoxian's life imprint. This kind of life imprint can only be entered by the soul. Only the soul of the Emperor realm can see it. Otherwise, even if his Doqi has reached the peak of 9-star Doshang, he will not be able to sense this mysterious existence. From a certain point of view, the original Xiaoxian has basically disappeared. The supreme powerhouse who once dominated the Doqi continent has completely dissipated in this world. However, for Xiaoyan who has stepped into the soul of the Emperor, this is not the case. This imprint of ancestor's life may be able to give Xiaoxian life again, but this method, even Xiaoyan, whose soul entered the Emperor realm when he was in Doqi continent, could not do it. Perhaps, when he truly enters the legendary Dodi realm in the future, he will be able to do so. In the palm of his hand, the invisible imprint of life slowly rose, and then got into Xiaoyan's eyebrows, guarded by his vast soul power like heaven and earth. Perhaps, after a long time, this man gave everything for the Xiao family. The old man can also reappear in this world. This is always a kind of hope, although it is far away, it makes people's hearts burn. However, although Xiaoyan did not have the ability to revive his ancestor Xiaoxian before, but now Xiaoyan has broken through the shackles of Dodi, successfully promoted to Dodi, and his soul power is also improving. I believe that the resurrection of ancestor Xiaoxian will not be impossible. Master, what materials do I need to refine a body in this Dodi continent? Xiaoyan also found that the Dodi continent and Doqi continent were unusual, so he suddenly remembered what he had promised to ancestor Xiaoxian, and then asked, Chapter 83, 4 Materials for Resurrecting Ancestor Xiaoxian. Xiao Yan clearly remembers that he used it to revive Venerable Tianhuo on Doqi continent, and his master, Venerable Yao, to refine a body. At that time, when refining the body, it needed the flames from the fusion of 3 heavenly fires, and the required pills were of extremely high rank, and the blood essence of the beasts was also extremely domineering, so the refining was successful. But their strength is not as strong as his ancestor Xiao Xian. The more powerful the soul needs, the more stringent the body is, otherwise the refined body will not be able to accommodate the powerful force and will explode in an instant, and it will be in vain in the end. After all, only a tyrannical body has the strength to return to the peak after resurrection. The strength of the body restricts the potential of future cultivation, so this matter cannot be sloppy. The strength of your ancestor Xiao Xian is a peak of 9-star Doshang. It is enough to show that he is also a gifted person, so the refined body can't be too ordinary. Now that you have the bones of this emperor, you need to cooperate with some medicinal materials. The refined body is also extremely perfect. The Golden Dragon King also stood in front of Xiao Yan and stared at the emperor's bones with satisfaction. Hearing that, Xiao Yan's eyes lit up. If the emperor's bones are the main body to cooperate with many high-level medicinal pills, then the resurrected ancestor Xiao Xian has a great possibility to break through from Doshang and directly hit the 7-star Do De peak. Even if ancestor Xiao Xian's soul itself is only at the strength of the peak of Doshang, but that body is at the peak of the 7-star Do De, a genuine peak powerhouse of the 7-star Do De, even on this Xianling continent, he can become the mainstay of a detached force, and he is a character who can walk sideways. Xiao Yan thought so passionately in his heart, and then he also put his eyes on the jade-white skeleton in front of him. Xiao Yan's careful thinking was naturally discovered by his master, the Golden Dragon King, and then he rolled his eyes and said, "Look what makes you happy, isn't it a peak powerhouse of the 7-star Do De? There is no prospect at all." Xiao Yan is also full of black lines. Although he vaguely knows that his master, the Golden Dragon King, must be very powerful, the powerhouse at the peak of the 7-star Do De is also a symbol of a powerhouse. As valuable as it is, there was a moment of speechlessness. "Okay, you put away the bones of the emperor first, and I'll tell you in detail. Remember to wrap it in your flame." The Golden Dragon King was also speaking. Hearing this, Xiao Yan's pupils shrank tightly, and then he thought to himself, although this emperor's skeleton is powerful, it has been burning like this by his own heavenly fire. Will it burn out? Although this heavenly fire of mine is not comparable to the power of that holy flame in this Dode continent, its power is also very strong. Such precious bones are hard to come by. Xiao Yan's distraction naturally couldn't escape the eyes of his master, and then the Golden Dragon King said in a very contemptuous tone, "Cut, with the power of your flames, you still want to burn the bones of the emperor? Don't dream. You can use your power of flame to strike with all your might, and you won't be able to break the bones of the emperor." Xiao Yan also scratched his head in embarrassment when he heard the words, and then the milky white flame instantly enveloped the bones of the emperor. "Senior is offended," Xiao Yan said abruptly, then bowed deeply. Without hesitation, the milky white flame skeleton in front of him turned into a beam of light and strung into the ring on Xiao Yan's finger. After doing all this, Xiao Yan nodded and said with a chuckle, "Master, now I have merged 23 kinds of heavenly fires. And I am still a first-order emperor-grade alchemist, as strong as a 7-star Do De peak powerhouse. The bones are also available, so is it possible to refine the body that accommodates the soul for the ancestors?" Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the Golden Dragon King was stunned, and immediately felt a little relieved. He touched Xiao Yan's head, changed his appearance, and said with a smile, "The normal body refining is quite simple, but refining Do De is not. The materials needed for the body are too rare and even terrifying, so this matter cannot be rushed. Even if he is as powerful as the Golden Dragon King, he is eager to be reborn." Although Xiao Yan is still very weak in front of him, the Golden Dragon King believes that the person in front of him will one day bring him back to life. After all, no one's soul would be willing to live in the darkness of the sky, and the Golden Dragon King still has his own things to do. "What materials do I need? Now I also have the title of Elder in the Qingcheng Alchemist Association. With the addition of the Yu family, maybe I can let them search?" Xiao Yan asked. "These things can't be obtained by searching," the Golden Dragon King gave a wry smile, but looking at Xiao Yan's earnest gaze, he nodded helplessly and said, if you want to refine a body that can hold the soul of your ancestors, the most important thing is not many, but 4 things are needed. Seeing the 4 fingers stretched out by his master, the Golden Dragon King, Xiao Yan also hurriedly focused and listened. First, create a blood-shaping pill. Second, the blood essence of the 7th grade emperor-ranked beast. Third, the skeleton of a Dode strong man. Fourth, the soul of the resurrected person, even if it is a shard imprint, as long as it has the power of the soul. Hearing that 4 things slowly popped out of the mouth of his master, the Golden Dragon King, Xiao Yan's original fiery expression gradually changed to sluggishness. Blood shaping pill? Even Xiao Yan's is a first-class alchemist. He doesn't know it at all, but fortunately, he will knows it from his well-informed master Golden Dragon King. This is the 3rd order peak of the dignified emperor pill, and even able to step into the top of the imperial medicine pill, the legendary super elixir that can immediately save the living dead as long as there is still a drop of blood. The 1st order emperor grade medicinal pills are further divided into the 3rd grade, followed by the 2nd grade emperor rank, and then the 1st grade emperor rank. The improvement of an alchemist, his strength, and his soul power are inseparable, and this first one alone stumped Xiao Yan. The blood essence of the 7th grade emperor ranked beast? This is astonishingly the same strength as the peak powerhouse of the 7-star Dode, like the skeleton in front of him. In front of a 7-star Dode peak powerhouse, even escaping is particularly difficult. Does it mean that you allow yourself to be killed by a monster that is comparable to the human 7-star Dode peak powerhouse? Not sure who kills who? A monster of this level is not a one-sided overlord, and it is not something that Xiao Yan can afford now. The 1st rank of the Beast Emperor is like a human 1-star Dode, but it is not known who is stronger or weaker in the real battle. The skeleton of a strong Do Emperor? There is a ready-made one in front of him, which saves Xiao Yan a lot of trouble. Otherwise, would it be possible that Xiao Yan would have to slaughter a 7-star Dode peak powerhouse? The soul imprint of the ancestor Xiao Xian, this Xiao Yan already had. Although there is still a long way to go before the blood essence of monsters and the blood-shaping pill, but the 2 of the 4 materials are already available. Xiao Yan also nodded slightly. Having a goal is better than blindly looking for it. My master is knowledgeable, and according to this material to prepare. The resurrection day of the ancestor Xiao Xian is not far away. Looking at Xiao Yan, whose face was full of surprise, the Golden Dragon King also slowly said with relief, this boy really. Chapter 84, The Necessities for Refining the Body. Holy Flame? Looking at Xiao Yan's stunned expression, the Golden Dragon King also smiled. He knew how shocking these 4 materials were to Xiao Yan, so he was not surprised. He just smiled and comforted. These things are extremely difficult to obtain, so I said don't be in a hurry. Your ancestors should be very relieved that you have this in your heart. Anyway, it's still a long way, we can do it slowly. His face gradually recovered. After a while, Xiao Yan smiled bitterly, feeling a little dizzy in his head. The essence bloodline of the 7th grade emperor-ranked beasts is the super powerhouse equivalent to the 7-star Dode powerhouse, and the essence bloodline of the beasts, the thing that survives and grows, is like the blood and marrow in the human body. If this thing is extracted from the body of the beast, the latter will naturally lose his life immediately. Therefore, if you want to get the 7th rank blood essence of a beast, then it is necessary to kill a super beast that is comparable to a 7-star Dode. And this level of beast, from birth till now, Xiao Yan has never even seen a single time. Let alone kill it. The so-called blood-shaping pill is not a simple thing. For the pills of the 3rd order peak of the Emperor, I am afraid that even the current president of the Qingcheng Alchemist Association will not be able to guarantee success, let alone. There are all kinds of strange and rare medicinal materials for refining the blood-shaping pills, and it is a great trouble to collect these things. With a bitter expression on his face, he nodded, and resurrecting the ancestor Xiao Xian really wasn't that simple. Xiao Yan sighed and said, I will keep this matter in my heart and look for opportunities in the future, to find a way to complete the remaining 2 materials. It wouldn't be so troublesome to refine a body that an ordinary soul can accommodate, but the stronger the soul power and the strength of your ancestor Xiao Xian during his lifetime, the more stringent the requirements for the body will be. And I also forgot to tell you that the most fundamental thing for refining the body is the fire of holy flame. The Golden Dragon King smiled and said, "Holy flame?" Hearing this, Xiaoyan's mood that had calmed down was also becoming more surprising. The most fundamental thing to refine the body actually needs the fire of holy flame? Xiaoyan also looked at his master Golden Dragon King floating in the air with surprise. Good. If it is an ordinary Dozun and Dosheng level body, it can be made with the flames in your body, but the body of a strong Dode is different. When you are promoted to Dode, you will be promoted successfully by absorbing the origin chi of the Emperor, and this origin chi of will tempered the body, so that you can truly step into the Dode. If you compare the body that can accommodate the peak of the 9-star Dosheng to 10, it is enough to accommodate Dode. The body of an Emperor is 100. The Golden Dragon King said solemnly. Hearing this, Xiaoyan also carefully recalled what his master, Golden Dragon King said. And your current power of flame is not enough to refine the bones of the peak 7-star Do Emperor in your hand, and refining the body, the sooner the better, otherwise, the blood of the beasts will be exhausted and the medicine pill will take a long time. If the medicinal power disappears, then it is a failure. The Golden Dragon King said in a very calm tone. Indeed. In terms of Xiaoyan's current power of heavenly fires, it would take several days to refine the bones of the peak powerhouse of the 7-star Dode. On the one hand, the strength of the Emperor's skeleton in his lifetime was extremely terrifying, and the skeleton that formed him after death was powerful. It is also quite laborious to transform. Moreover, even if the rarity of the holy flame is compared to that of the heavenly fire, it is not too much. Whether it can be subdued or not is another matter, and all of these are enough to explain how hard the holy flame is to be found. Damn it! It's really twists and turns. Xiaoyan couldn't help cursing after hearing that his master Golden Dragon King said this. But don't worry. When the matter in Qingcheng is over, I will slowly guide you to find the holy flame that sits on this profound spirit continent. I just don't know how he is now. The Golden Dragon King also looked at Xiaoyan, who was a little depressed, and said comfortably. Huh. Xiaoyan suddenly became excited when he heard the words, and then looked at his master, the Golden Dragon King, with fiery eyes. Hey, don't try to tell me what to say, you kid. I know holy flames, and I also know about your family, but I just won't tell you. The Golden Dragon King laughed. Xiaoyan's eyes returned to normal immediately, and then rolled his eyes at his master, the Golden Dragon King. When you are strong enough, I will naturally tell you one by one. As for now, let's go out of the ruins first. Looking at the stone room that was collapsing more and more, the Golden Dragon King also said. Yeah. Xiaoyan also knew that what his master Golden Dragon King said was true, even though there are many mysteries he want to know, but he had no strength. Boom boom boom. Pieces of boulders fell from the stone chamber. In the stone room of the Emperor, the blood was taken, and the bones were obtained by the destined people. It also lived up to the wish of this senior. While thinking about the milky white vindictiveness that enveloped the whole body, he waved his right hand fiercely. A space crack. It appeared in front of Xiaoyan. Of course, there is a ban on suppressing the strong in this ruin, so that the person who surpassed the 4-star Dode cannot step into it, so even the space crack cannot be torn out, but with the loss of the Emperor's bones and blood essence, this ban is also slowly losing its effectivity. Time to go. Without hesitation, it turned into a milky white meteor and streaks into the crack in space. Half a month has passed since the opening of this Beast Mountain ruins. After being persuaded to retreat by the 7 major cities, they did not dare to step into the ruins, but everyone knew that this Xiaoyan was enough to obtain the largest number of the ruins. Therefore, the current Xiaoyan is also the mortal enemy of those many heaven's favorites, sons of the 7 cities. Especially that Wu Huan from Wuchen, who is even more worried about Xiaoyan, who's being chosen by that girl dressed in white, and rumored to deal with Xiaoyan. Ho ho ho. As soon as he came out from the beast ruins, Xiaoyan could hear the roars of some monsters from time to time, that was apparently sent out to fight for turf. A young man with a weak figure, with a dark heavy ruler on his back, was walking alone in this Beast Mountain range. This trip to the ruins is also a worthwhile trip, the strength of the peak 3-star Dode. In addition, you can carry this heavy ruler with you. I have dealt with it for you. It usually looks like a bland black heavy ruler. This heavy ruler can suppress your Doqi. The strength of the peak 3-star Dode has been suppressed to the middle of 3-star Dode, and when you take off this heavy ruler to fight against others, the power of the heavy ruler will increase sharply in an instant, which will undoubtedly be one of your means, and this heavy ruler is also really extraordinary. The Golden Dragon King is also satisfied. Xiaoyan can also feel that this ancient ruler of eternal fires, which is formed by the fusion of 23 kinds of heavenly fire powers, is definitely not simple. Before, his current strength was limited, and he could not explore the mysteries. Let's go back to Qingcheng first. I don't know what happened to Qing Yuan's little girl, the Golden Dragon King also said. But after the Golden Dragon King finished speaking, a man shouted and said, "Hand over that so-called great creation, and I might consider to spare your life." There was a figure in front of Xiaoyan, and the huge red douqi roared out, like a cloud of fire, and on the cloud of fire, a slender figure stood with his hands behind his back. With a look of contempt, he turned his eyes to the young man with heavy ruler. Chapter 85, Martial Magic Sniper. Isn't this the martial magic that Wuchen is known as the heaven's favorite son? Xiaoyan was also surprised. The number of times he and this martial magician had met with a single slap could be counted. Hearing this, Xiaoyan also cast his eyes on the big tree where the voice came from, and saw a slender figure standing with his hands behind his back, red douqi roaring out and surrounding him. "What did your excellency mean?" Xiaoyan also said coldly. According to Yuera's words, the man in front of him was Wu Huan, the arrogant son from Wuchen, but his strength was also at the peak 3-star Dode. However, what Xiaoyan saw about the latter half a month ago was only in the late stage of the 3-star Dode, and now he can see some clues from the fluctuation of his douqi. It is also the peak of 3-star Dode. This should be helped by some treasure harvested in the ruins, which led to the improvement of the strength to the level of the peak 3-star Dode. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to advance through training. However, even though this Wu Huan is also at the peak of 3-star Dode, Xiaoyan is not afraid at all. Although I don't know what you have to do with the mysterious guardian in white, this is the territory of my Wuchen. Hand over your good fortune. Wu Huan also slowly jumped down from a big tree, and then looked at the former coldly as if he was stunned by Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard this. Afterwards, he also knew that although he could be recognized by a white robe before, the so-called good fortune did not need any flame power to absorb it. Being too powerful, even the pride sons of the 7 cities could not do anything, so he had no choice but to withdraw from the ruins. As for Xiaoyan being left behind by a white robe, although the fire spirit contribution is inevitable, there are also some personal feelings in a white robe. Although I don't know why, Xiaoyan always feels that this white robe seems to be the same as his own. The fire spirit in the body has some origins, but Xiaoyi is also in a state of degeneration, and Xiaoyan has no way to ask. Wu Huan, you can really talk nonsense. This is clearly the demonic beast mountains, so why is it your Wuchen's territory? And why should I hand over the good fortune I obtained with my own strength? Xiaoyan also happily looked at the aloof martial arts. Others might be afraid of his status as the young city master of Wuchen, but Xiaoyan would not. After all, this Qingcheng is just a rest stop for Xiaoyan. Okay, Xiaoyan, do you really think we are fools? We worked so hard to defeat the 6 guardians of the Emperor, just to let you come to pick up this great fortune. The smile on Wu Huan's face also gradually changed and solidified. Xiaoyan also smiled lightly when he heard the words. It turned out that this Wu Huan turned out to be a person who would retaliate against him. Since you don't hand it over, then just die. Being buried in the depths of this demonic beast mountain is also your perfect destination. Don't worry, Wu Huan has searched this area for hundreds of miles, and there is no one else here except you and me. Wu Huan couldn't help roaring loudly. Oh, Xiaoyan was still a little worried. This place is also very close to the Wuchen city. If one accidentally attracts the strong people in the Wuchen city, it will be troublesome, but now hearing Wu Huan say this, he can't help but feel relieved. Since your martial fantasy wants to kill me to get good luck, let's see if you have the ability. Xiaoyan also said with relief. Then accept my palm. Fire-killing palm. As soon as the shouting fell, Wu Huan just showed his body, and after a few flashes, he arrived in front of Xiaoyan and blasted out from the air with one hand and one palm. The terrifying strong wind directly ripped out the dark cracks in the space. Looking at the fierce attack from Wu Huan in front of him, It also changed Xiaoyan's complexion. Although this Wu Huan said that he would be punished, his strength should not be underestimated, nor should the dignified young city master of Wuchen City be underestimated. To say that it is fast. In the face of such a terrifying strong wind, it is possible that Xiaoyan will forcefully take it down. It is not that he cannot resist it, but it is not necessary. At the moment, Xiaoyan's body twisted strangely, and several afterimages appeared in the air. A few afterimages are impressively the manifestation of the highest realm that his 3000 lightning movement has cultivated. And dangerously, he avoided several strong winds, and after Wu Huan made his attack, his speed was also slowed down. Intercepting Wu Huan's terrifying attack, Xiaoyan swept his body and grabbed Wu Huan's forehead. Xiaoyan has always been, that people don't commit crimes against me, and I don't commit crimes. Since this martial arts fantasy is going to kill him, there is no need for him to show mercy. It just so happens that there is no one here. Bastard, court death. Seeing this scene, Wu Huan's face was full of anger. He didn't expect that Xiaoyan was also a ruthless person. Grabbing the palm of his hand, a suction force burst out from the palm of his hand, and it directly uprooted a big tree behind it. The figure condensed in midair for a moment, and the big tree in the sky instantly pressed against his forehead to prevent Xiaoyan fire attack. Xiaoyan saw and he also took advantage of the body's shape and took the lead. With a big hand, he grabbed the tree in the sky, but before he could pull it hard, a fierce and unparalleled wind was coming from behind his back. He smashed his head hard. Feeling the fierce wind behind him, Xiaoyan also smiled slightly, and then a beautiful 23-color fire lotus seed appeared in his hand. Hoo-hoo! Xiaoyan also found that since breaking through to the peak of 3-star Dodi, his signature method, the angry fire lotus seeds fused with 23 kinds of heavenly fires, has become perfect with just one snap, and can be condensed in an instant when his mind moves, which is also faster than before. It's a lot faster, but Xiaoyan also found out that even if the Buddha's angry fire lotus is formed by the fusion of many heavenly fire powers, the suppression that can be obtained against the same level of power is getting smaller and smaller, and it is in the fight. On the Dochi continent, Buddha's angry fire lotus has always been a signature method that can surpass the ranks and decide the outcome, but it is a little difficult to deal with the powerhouses of the same level on the Dode continent. As a result, Xiaoyan has always had a vague guess in his heart. It seems that the heavenly fire in his body has been exhausted since he came to Dode continent, as if it was in a dormant period. In other words, there seems to be something missing from the fire. Otherwise, the heavenly fire and the holy flame belong to the power born between heaven and earth. How could the gap be so big? During the battle, it was too late to be distracted, and then he raised the Buddha's angry fire lotus in his hand and smashed it viciously at Wu Huan in front of him. Shabu shabu shabu. The Buddha's angry fire lotus roared away at Wu Huan. Wu Huan also shrank his pupils tightly, and then his fiery red doqi swept out in a frenzy to resist. Because Wu Huan is also a powerhouse at the peak of 3-star Dodi, better. Then he felt a terrifying aura above this delicate Buddha's angry fire lotus. At this time, Wu Huan had only one thought in his heart. If he was directly hit by the power of this fire lotus, then his fate would only be one. Serious.
Hi. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get updated on my latest video. Thank you for watching.